her leader says, yes, he is. Well, it turns out, there was something going on between them. But so Rameshwar, that doesn't work out, of course. We all know the history. So then she asks, well, now who can I? Well, I'll get initiated by Lokanath Maharaj. So she got initiated by Lokanath Maharaj in Daytona Beach just before he's about to go to Mayapur and be banned from initiating for 5 years. So that was one. I'll tell you the rest of the story in a minute. Badarayan's wife, she was first initiated by Jayatirtha, and then later, after that happened, Bhagavan. And so all these years, she's wondering what to do. So she has a dream. She's always been begging Prabhupada what to do. So she has this dream, and Prabhupada comes to her, and she's on a stage, and all around are the devotees. And Prabhupada says to her, I will initiate. You are my disciple now. So that's one. Two, my wife is praying to Prabhupada. She'd written so many letters to Lokanath, didn't get a response, unfortunately. But so she's praying to Prabhupada what to do. So Narayan Maharaj comes. So people are telling her to go. People are telling her not to go. So she goes to see him anyway for herself. So she decides that I want to get initiated by him. He's obviously a pure devotee. So she gets initiated. She begs him for initiation. He agrees. Then she has a dream where Prabhupada comes to her and says, I'm very happy I'm very happy with your decision. So, I mean, but there's other circumstances, For example, in our community, there's a devotee who used to be named Chandravidya. He met Srila Prabhupada, I guess, in London. His whole family got Harinam. And Chandravidya, well, he got Harinam, and Prabhupada gave him the name of Rishi Kumar. So Prabhupada tells the family that Jayatirtha will perform the fire yajna. So Prabhupada leaves. Jayatirtha doesn't perform the fire yajna. He's busy doing so many other things. So now Jayatirtha says to them, well, I guess you're going to have to be my disciples because I didn't perform the fire yajna. So many years later, he realizes, well, Prabhupada accepted me. So he's really Prabhupada's disciple. And he now goes by the name Rishi Kumar. His ex-wife had a similar circumstance where she was 14 and she ran away from home. She's Indian, into the London temple, and she was serving there sort of illegally. And it came to Prabhupada's attention when he came, and so Prabhupada wanted to see her. And she explained that she didn't want to go home, she wanted to stay. And Prabhupada said, you can't stay, you're too young. She said, well, what will I do? And he said, I will give you, he gave her Harinam initiation right there in his room. No fire yajna. So she's actually Prabhupada's disciple. Her name is Jarati Dasi.
It's like when Mahaprabhu says, who is a Vaishnava? Someone who has chanted Hare Krishna once.
Yeah.
So if you read them, so somebody reads the books, are they following 4 regulative principles? No, so they're not initiated. So at that time, and I saw when I was with the Ritwik classes, I just wanted to finish the Caitanya Charitamrita. So every week we would read, we would have 5 or 6 speakers like tonight or these meetings, and we wanted to finish the book. It became unbearable though. This person had a Govardhan Shila and kept it in a drawer. Didn't want to worship it. And another week we went there, I gave away my Jagannath deities. I said, this Krishna consciousness is going down. And then the offenses, which I cannot even repeat, about other Vaishnavas. And I told them, I said, you can't say that about someone just because they're not a disciple of Prabhupada. Oh, and then, oh boy, Prabhupada told us not to wish to go to his god brother. So they're all, and they say horrible things about them. So committing these Vaishnava aparadhs, that's the end. And I could see that their Krishna consciousness sadhana was going down, down, down. Finally, I couldn't take it anymore. They all believe in fall from Vaikuntha. They believe you don't need a guru. And so on. But I mean, just things you can't hear.
So more, Acyutananda Prabhu, I'm not trying to single out Jivan Mukta Prabhu, but he's my dear
I'm
friend.
not singling
I
out.
was in the temple when he joined in 79. I want to ask about his position. He was initiated by Kirtanananda Prabhu. As far as I understand, when Kirtanananda Prabhu initiated him, he connected him with the disciplic succession. I consider Jivan Mukta to be more devoted to Prabhupada than I am. He won't say that, but I'll say that. So what is the position of someone that had a guru? Yes.
When I saw Prabhupada talk, because also at these classes, they would show about half an hour of all the videos in succession from the earliest to on. So for 2 years, I could see and by 1972, Prabhupada was upset that nobody was reading the books. He says, you're reading the books or you're just selling.
Right.
So he was emphasizing reading the books, reading the books.
Yes.
Even to the point of saying, if you read the book, you're initiated.
Yes.
And on the other hand, I think there must be, how many books are out there? A couple of million books are out. Somebody's reading, people are reading them. I think they are setting up altars without direction. They're setting up altars, they're chanting the beads on their own. And many of them, and we know, they come to some temple in some, Cincinnati or something, and they get treated ill-treated. Or if you're from another godbrother's line, you're ill-treated. We have no problem with the Radharaman Summit. They're in a line from, this is also Loka's specialty about the 99 branches of Lord Chaitanya's tree.
Principle.
And then the Ritwiks love to say, oh, well, some of them dried up. Yeah, and some of them didn't. And maybe some lines from Prabhupada's 11, some of them dried up.
Anyway, Gaur Prabhu, I appreciate bringing it up, but it's not an issue for me at all, frankly, at all. I am not interested in I'm not looking for a guru. That's the last thing that I think about. And I just wanted to say that bad behavior is itself not something that neutralizes or that discredits, a particular, system, let's say, someone may have as far as initiation or what they're thinking is initiation. As far as I'm concerned, that's not in itself an argument, because even there, I know many Prabhupada disciples whose behavior is also very, very bad. So that doesn't mean that their initiation was not valid. So just because some of these Ritviks, I agree that, that behavior is horrible, but that in itself doesn't invalidate the system that they're presenting.
If reading the book is initiation, then why do the Ritwiks hold initiation ceremonies?
There is a question actually. I think Madan Mohan Prabhu would like to ask some question. Could you please explain?
Yeah, Madan Mohan from Chile, Jivan Mukta Prabhu and I were asked to speak in Chile. He has a question. Could you explain why the DOM, direction of management, was never followed in our movement? Direction of management established by Srila Prabhupada in 1971 and then emphasized 1974 by himself with annoyance because they were not being followed. Any insight on that?
No, I never had anything to do. I went to India to get away from an institute. I didn't want to join an organized religion. In the
It's
beginning, in 20
disorganized.
once in my book, I read somebody once asked Prabhupada, well, in your religion, this is not religion, this is knowledge.
Look,
The order-
Guru, do you have a response to
time.
this?
Another,
Yeah.
here's another funny, here's another,
Well,
here's another funny thing. Someone asked Prabhupada, why do we wear saffron? Now he meant, you know, why this color? But Prabhupada took it his own way. He says, why do we wear saffron? To get free food and free clothing. We can go on the train. We can get free train tickets, and we can stay. He said, if he was in India, if you came to India in your American dress, do you think you would be invited for Prasannam?
I was gonna say that
Yes, please.
for those devotees who are all alone in the wilderness, or who feel like they're alone, even like the Ritviks, they can accept Srila Prabhupada or any other acharya, realistically, as a shiksha guru. Shiksha guru, well, I don't know if it's still there. It used to be in there in the summary of the first chapter of Adi Leela, where Prabhupada writes that the shiksha and diksha are non-different. They're both phenomenal manifestations of the Supreme Personality of
Yes.
Godhead.
But we don't recognize that in ISKCON. All emphasis is on Diksha Guru, Diksha Guru, Diksha Guru.
Well, that's that unfortunately, that is the what is it? There's the bhagavat succession, where we go from one pure devotee to another without regard to which faction he's in. Or there's the there's the Brahminical version. I forget the Sanskrit.
Pancharatrika.
Yeah, Pancharatrika. So that version is that if I'm going to be initiated, I have to be initiated by a disciple of my guru, or someone had a disciple of Prabhupada. If we want to be an ISKCON, if we want to be a devotee, that's called the Pancharatrika version of disciplic succession. But in our society, in our Krishna consciousness movement, we operate from the principle of the Bhagavat system of parampara.
The Ritviks say rightly that, well, the same system was going on in ISKCON for a long time after Prabhupada. The guru would come through, give initiation, get the dakshina, and leave. And then every Vyas Puja, on his birthday, he'd go back and get the dakshina. Did he sit face to face and answer questions? Huh. We left them on their own. Read the books and read my book.
I'm misreading the Caitanya teachings of Lord Chaitanya. Gaur.
Should we end on a little bit of that?
Yeah, let's go back.
Okay. Do you want
These
to?
are all good things.
Yes, they are. I'm glad you appreciate that. Okay. Who would like to read the next paragraph?
I didn't read yet.
Please read.
Does Krishna and Radharani both transcendentally qualified, or the next one?
That one.
That one.
Okay, there's something blocking one line. Radharani's transcendental attractiveness is greater than Krishna's. For her attractiveness is the transcendental taste in conjugal love. Similarly, there are transcendental tastes in servitorship, friendship, and other relationships with Krishna. These can be described with reference to the context in the Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu. Persons who have been thoroughly cleansed by devotional service and are always joyful being situated in elevated consciousness, and very much attached to studying Srimad Bhagavatam, who are always cheerful in the association of devotees, who have accepted the lotus feet of Krishna as the ultimate shelter of their lives, and who are pleased to perform all details of devotional service. Such devotees have in their pure hearts the transcendental ecstasy of attachment, asakti, which has been developed through old and new reformatory practices. Wow. See,
Mm.
those reformatory practices, like Prabhupada was always criticized, you're letting women do puja, and this, well, yeah. I give them shelter also. That ecstatic state of being enriched with love for Krishna and transcendental experience gradually develops into the mature bliss of spiritual life. Tasting such spiritual bliss is not possible for those who are not situated in Krishna consciousness and devotional service. This fact is further corroborated in Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu 2:5, verse 131, where it is said, it is very difficult for the non-devotee to understand the taste of devotional service. Only one who has completely taken shelter of the lotus feet of Krishna, whose life is merged in the ocean of devotional service, can understand this transcendental pleasure.
Comments?
Yes,
Jai.
that's why we're all laughing. It is susukam kartamavyayam, where it is joyfully performed. So if you see devotees, and we would see them, they're all miserable sometimes in the temple. What's the matter? They will take some devotee, a brand new devotee right after initiation, put a book bag on him and say, go out on the pick. Go hit the streets. Well, when do we learn? Oh, bringing in money, fundraising is vital, certainly. But just to go out and take a new devotee, not give him teaching. There's a great devotee here in Madan Mohan Prabhu. And he had a terrible experience, and now he's very involved in reading Srimad Bhagavatam. And he was in some temple. He was reading the teachings of Lord Caitanya, sitting down. Some president comes by, grabs the book out of his hand and says, oh, another devotee not doing anything.
Oh.
So he said, okay, that's it. I'm going to read. And he's thoroughly involved in Bhagavatam reading.
There's one story where Gauridas Pandit Prabhu was sitting in Prabhupada's quarters, 1977, I believe it was. And Prabhupada came in and he was reading the fourth canto. And Srila Prabhupada smiled at him. And I'm not sure if he actually said any words, but he expressed great gratitude to see Gauridas Pandit Prabhu reading his Bhagavatam, Prabhupada's fourth canto.
No, I say, Kiva Ritwik, Kiva Gaudiya, Iskan Keninoi, Jai Krishna Tattaveta Se Guru Hoy.
Okay.
I made that up.
Translation.
I made that. Well, that's I'm paraphrasing.
Kiva Vipra,
Kiva
Kiva
Vipra, Kiva Nyasi, Shudra Keninoi, Jai Krishna Tattaveta Se Guru Hoy. We have to know Krishna Tattva.
So regardless of one's position, they can all.
It may be possible, but I said, well, I had a living guru, and it helps.
Well, it helps if you're reading and you don't understand something. You need to speak to someone who understands it.
Clarification.
But I think also, just like you Prabhus have mentioned about Bhaktisiddhanta and how they confided amongst each other and decided amongst each other how to proceed. I think the association of devotees is fundamental in ISKCON and Krishna consciousness. I mean, just look at this group here. I mean, if we actually understand the fundamentals of Krishna consciousness and of human life, in the sense that we just show respect and are respectful with each other, what to speak of as devotees. We should be respecting all human beings and all life forms, what to speak of Vaishnavas. So if we can show respect to each other, and especially to the senior devotees, regardless of whether it doesn't matter, if we could show respect to those devotees who've served, who've demonstrated surrender and commitment to this process and realization, then that's in a sense, an expression of our spiritual master's presence. I mean, this is where we get direction as well. It's not that the spiritual master can't direct you through another devotee.
Exactly.
I mean, who was it that was directed through Chintamani, the prostitute? I mean, his guru manifested as the prostitute Chintamani,
Bilva Mangala
the
Thakur.
Mangala Thakur. So, I mean, it's so I see like this association I have with all of you Prabhus. This is the most important thing next to reading for him.
Yeah.
Sadhu Sangi, Sadhu Sangi, Sadhu Shastra Koi is a Labamatra Sadhu Sangi, Sadhu Sadhiva. But also about intrinsic rasa and devotees who are like outside your own sampradaya. When Mahaprabhu was in South India, he stayed in the home of a Ram Bhakta. And one day there was no prasadam. And the Ram Bhakta is out on the porch crying. He said, are you going to make prasadam? Lakshman has not returned yet. Oh, Mahaprabhu understood this is a deep Ram Bhakta. And I cried that Sita was kidnapped. And Mahaprabhu himself took the trouble to go and bring back verses that say that Sita that Ravana took away was not a real Sita, that was a Maya Sita to pacify him. He didn't say, no, you're wrong. You're not in my line.
You're not in ISKCON.
You haven't obeyed the GBC rule number 32, paragraph 3.
But why are we surprised that there are Kanishta Adhikari, like, of that caliber? I mean,
he's
that's
not Kanishta. He was an Uttama. He was an Uttama Rambhakt.
No, I'm not talking about devotees that say that would say that you're not in our line and, so, and denigrate you because of that. I mean, that's clearly a Kanishta mentality, and we know that exists.
Yes.
So we have to respect them in the sense that they're still devotees in a sense.
Continuous Vaishnav aparat makes Hari Nam void.
Wow.
You can't fall from Krishna consciousness. Yes, you can. By the mad elephant that can pull up the bhakti lata by the roots.
Hatimata.
What?
Hatimata.
Hatimata.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, the things I heard, I cannot even repeat. It's so horrible.
Local Guru Prabhu, would you like to read a paragraph before we end?
Sure. Where?
I think we're next here. Lord
Chaitanya.
Oh, Lord Chaitanya. Okay. Lord Chaitanya briefly explained the transcendental situation, the spiritual relish of life, which he called the fifth stage of perfection. The first stage of perfection is to become a religious man in the ordinary sense, as known in the material world. The second stage of perfection is to become materially rich. The third stage of perfection is the attainment of complete sense enjoyment. The fourth stage of perfection is liberation. But above liberation are those in the fifth stage of perfection, those who are established in Krishna consciousness or devotional service to the Lord. Already liberated, the devotees who reach the highest perfection of devotional service in Krishna consciousness experience the taste of ecstasy of spiritual relish. The Lord then told Sanatan.
Can I just stop for a second?
Sure.
That just reminds me of what he's describing there as Dharma, Artha, Kama, Moksha.
Yes.
But we say Prema Pumartha Mohan beyond, because if you go to university classes, they teach, because it's one thing, service I love doing is speaking in colleges. I'm not a scholar like Acyutananda Prabhu, but when you go to a course on Hinduism, they say, yes, the goal of life is Dharma, Artha, Kama, and Moksha. But they don't mention Prema Pumartha Mohan, which you just read about just here. I just wanted to address that.
Okay, great.
Yeah.
So continue to read?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay.
The Lord then related to Sanatan Goswami that he had previously taught his younger brother Rupa Goswami at Prayag, Allahabad. The Lord assured Sanatan Goswami that he had empowered Rupa Goswami to spread the knowledge that he had given him. The Lord similarly ordered Sanatan Goswami to write books on the transcendental loving service of Lord Krishna, and he authorized him to excavate the different sites of Krishna's pastimes in the district of Mathura. Sanatan Goswami was also advised to construct temples in Vrindavan and to write books on the principles of Vaishnavism, as authorized by Lord Caitanya himself. Sanatan Goswami executed all these desires of the Lord. He constructed the temple of Madan Mohan at Vrindavan, and he wrote books on the principles of devotional service, such as Hari Bhakta Vilas.
Acyutananda Prabhu, any comments or local guru on this?
Well, back to Abhideya, Sambandha Abhideya Prayojana. The verses are, what's the first? Jayatang Surato Pango Mama Manda Materagati Matsaravasyang Padangbojo Sri Radha Madana Mohana. That is our Sambandha. My evil, my dirty mind will be purified by the Madan Mohan deity, Sanatan Goswami is Sambandha. Then Divya Brindaranya Kalpadramada Sri Madaratnangara Singha Samasto Sri Sri Radha Govinda Deva Prashna Visa Vimanas Mani. That is our sadhana activity, the Abhideya, or the process to become. And then to understand the ultimate knowledge is Sriman Narasa Rasa Rambe Bangsi Varatastita Parshan Venusaner Gopi Gopinath Sriyasan. So that deity of Gopinath is for Raghunathas Goswami, is the Prayojana, the final ultimate self-realization verse that describes that.
He was talking about the excavating the holy places in Mathura, Vrindavan.
H.I. Gosan Jabe Braji Koilevas Radha Krishna Nityalila Korila Prakash. That's the other thing about Nityananda manifests. He is Sat. He makes things experiential. He reveals everything. Without Nityananda, you can't understand, or you cannot make things to be seen. So Nityananda's expansion, the last expansion of Balaram, Purusha, is Archavigraha, the deity. The deity is the last expansion. After Sheshnag is also Archavigraha. He makes us see Krishna. So how did Prabhupada explain that? He said, I'm going ahead and giving the 10th canto in the form of Krishna book because I did not want to leave this world without letting my devotees see the face of Krishna. The first canto, second, those are the feet of Krishna, and up the legs and the torso and the arms of Krishna. And the 10th canto is Krishna's lotus face. Krishna's lotus face has 9 lotuses. Who can name them?
Lotus eyes, lotus mouth.
Yeah. 2, 1, 3.
Lotus lips.
Lotus mouth, 2 lotus hands, 2 lotus feet, and
Right.
1 lotus navel.
Right. Nabi.
Nabi.
Pankajaya.
So who says you're not a scholar?
I do.
Can you preach in any colleges now with this woke?
Everything's on Zoom. I lost enthusiasm, but I
So
guess
they can't-
yes.
So they can't throw spray in your face. Many conservative people give lectures and they drive them out. They heckle them and drive them out.
No, I could ask. That's a very good idea to ask about doing a Zoom in for some students through some professors. Yeah. So these places of excavation in the Mathura Vrindavan area, have they all been done, or do you think? I'm not asking you to speculate,
Limited.
but are there more excavations to be done?
I don't know. Could be. I once asked Sridhar Maharaj about there's this area called Sevakunj, where they say the Ras Leela happened.
Right.
And Sridhar Maharaj right away said, Krishna did Ras Leela in this kunj and that kunj and this. They just, like we have national parks, So they cordoned some place off so that it would never be, built up, and they kept it
Right.
guarded. They kept it. But Krishna had Ras Leelas all over.
He had Rasa Leela on Kaliya's hoods.
Yep. Well, that's not the same as Ras.
Oh, actually, on that note, Jivan Mukta Prabhu brought a very good point to me. And he was quoting from the Brihad Bhagavatamrita last night, where he was saying, and I'm not trying to contradict anybody here, but he was quoting how Krishna's killing demons is Putana, Kamsa, this one. It's actually going on in the spiritual world. And I'd never heard that before, but he was quoting.
It goes on in what's called Vichitra Vritti, by vicariously. They know it happens and manifests in the Boma Lila. They know about it, but they are not manifest there. Just like Mother Yasoda will have a bhava that of Bhoya, that maybe Kamsa will come, maybe a Brikasura might come again and get Krishna, but they don't appear there. They're not manifested there. And Kaliya wasn't really Asura. He becomes devotee, and Krishna doesn't kill him.
He went to Fiji.
Yeah, that's here. But in the spiritual sky, he's a real nice guy.
But Jivan Mukta, you were reading to me that this actually, it says that Krishna did this in Goloka Vrindavan. Is that correct?
Yeah, I mean,
That's not the way it was told to me, that these four, here we go. The four things that are not manifested in Goloka are the demons, husbands, baby Krishna, and sadhus.
Who said that? That was Srila Maharaj, or Prabhupada told you?
It's just well known. Everybody knows it. So that they appear there, or the Leela is going on. It's going on in this transcendental manner. We can't. It's beyond our conception that the Leelas go on, but they're not manifested. There are no demons in Goloka.
Mm-hmm.
But the bhava of being afraid of them is that maybe Kamsa will come. Somewhere it is also said, some of the gopis are praying for Kamsa to the other cowherd boys pray to Kamsa to kill you because you're dancing with their wives. There are no husbands there.
Yeah.
They only have the bhava that they're married, and somewhere they go home, but it never happens. It's not there. So if it says something like that in Brihad Bhagavatamrita, I can't contradict it, but this is the way it's understood to me. Just like any mother will look on her grown son. He might be 45 years old, and what does she say? He's my baby.
Well, I was reading to you, Prabhu. I was reading to you.
When Mother Yasoda sees Krishna again in Kurukshetra, milk comes to her breast. He's already 85 years old.
Yeah, the only thing, I think I had mentioned it to you earlier, that here's a commentary. It says, later in this narration, we will discover how persons like wicked Kamsa, who in the material world had died long ago, could still be active in Goloka.
Yeah, it's
active,
the threat.
Active in the sentiment.
It could be. It's like the threat that he may come, but he doesn't.
Okay, but it doesn't. But being to say that this individual is active is different than saying that the idea of him is active. Like that's a whole different thing.
Right. What's the sentence again?
I'll read it to you.
Okay.
First of all, I'll read you
what chapter are you in? What
chapter 6, verse.
Okay, I got one idea. Mathura is not Braja. Mathura is not Braja.
Okay.
Outside, it's across the Jamuna.
But it's in Goloka.
Kamsa never comes into there. And Krishna doesn't go out. Krishna doesn't fight with Kamsa in Goloka. He only fights, there's only fighting in the Boma Lila.
But what this says.
But the idea that he fought with him, they all know. They all know. And then he came back. And he came right back to Braja.
this though says that he's still active in Sri Goloka. He doesn't say, oh, Mathura, it says Sri Goloka.
Okay.
The original verse says, in the original Mathura, I heard that Kamsa had taken it upon himself to arrest his father and Krishna's parents, Devaki and Vasudeva, and was ruling the kingdom. Commentary. Kamsa needed no introduction, especially to a person who had hailed from Mathura city. The Brahmin must at least have read about him in the Puranas and other scriptures. Later in this narration, we will discover how persons like wicked Kamsa, who in the material world had died long ago, could still be active in Sri Goloka.
So we got to read later on how it is told.
It's told that
Later on. So later
yeah.
on, how he is active. But everything in Goloka is spiritual. There's no matter there. And there's no pratikula bhav there. Everything is anukul.
Mhm.
What's
But they
the
get
difference
to-
between what's the
to
difference
supplement-
between
To
What's the
supplement,
difference? What's the difference
supplement-
between
Ah,
pratikula?
for the 5th time, you don't hear me. It's not your fault. To supplement madhurya, there's also the gona rasas. Gona means qualified. They're not unqualified. They're qualified. So there's some taste, just like the example in Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, to make a sweet rice with a little pepper, little black pepper, some camphor. On their own, they taste terrible. But when they're supplemented into the sweet rice, into the annakut, into the paramanna, that makes it sweeter. You ever put salt on watermelon? It tastes sweeter.
I got to try that. I never tried that before.
Oh, yeah.
Sounds insane.
That's called chat masala, right, Nichalila?
Yeah,
Can I ask a question, Prabhu?
yeah.
Acyutananda Prabhu, you were saying that there's no baby Krishna in Golok Vrindavan. So
Yeah.
how does one that has the Vatsalya Ras engage in that in Golok Vrindavan if baby Krishna's not there
In the bhava, this is bhava.
in the Bhava?
Just like Shakti Avesh. Or for instance, here's a big one. Oh boy. Only Rup and Sanatan, only Rup and Raghunath, Rup and Raghunath are Nitya Siddhas. The other Goswamis are Sadhana Siddhas.
Really?
The bhava comes,
Yeah.
the bhava comes down into them. Shakti Avesh, Prabhupada, Shakti Avesh Avatar, it comes down. Was he born in Calcutta? Sure. Was he born Prabhupada? No. But the bhava of him being my baby, we there when I just said, when they meet in Kurukshetra, Mother Yasoda sees Krishna after so many years, and milk comes to her breast, and he sits on her lap. And they're 85 years old. He's already king for decades now. He's left Vrindavan. That's in the Bhamalila where things are in a sequence. There's a chapter, part of a verse where Vishwanath Chakravarti stops everything. Says, I'll give you the real krama of the timeline. Kurukshetra, the solar eclipse happens before the Battle of Kurukshetra, and so on. But it's out of order in the 10th canto, because it is the Srimad Bhagavatam, from the point of view of devotees, expanding their prema, culminating in 10th canto, and culminating in the Panchadhyaya, the 5 chapters of Gopi love. So they have the emotions of motherhood. Like I said, even now we have that idea. A mother may have a son 45 years old, and she says, he's my little baby. She always sees him as a baby. And she doesn't think that the gopis are higher.
Thank you very much, Prabhu.
Krishna has a bite mark on his neck. And the other gopis said, he's got girlfriends. What do you mean girlfriends? He's still my kid. Yeah, he's not old enough. How can he have girlfriends that scratch him and play with girls? He's not playing with girls. He's too young. There's say the idea. But Krishna, there's no birth of Krishna in Goloka Leela. There's no.
Thank you, Prabhu.
So Krishna appears to be approximately what age in Goloka? Because I heard that he danced in the Rasa Leela. He was like 6 or 7 years old or something like
Yeah,
that.
you no, he's 11. That's in those verses. I have to find it. I may have put a marker in my book. Banu's Sarartha Darshini 10th canto is very good. But in Goloka and even demigods, they mature 1.5 years per year. So in 11 years, he's actually plus 5.5. So he's 16 and a half. Radharani a little younger. The mantra in the Gaura Gonadesha Tipika, no, the Gaur Govinda Archana Padati, that's Gopal Guru and Dhyana Chandra's book. It will describe all the ages and the dresses of all the gopis and the manjaris and their dates of how old they are. They're all a little younger, down to about 13, 12 years old. And the Sakis are all about equal, a little bit younger. Lalita, I think, is older than Radharani by a few months. But they mature 1.5 years per year. And boy, would I like to do that. Wouldn't you like to graduate? Wouldn't you like to get out of high school when you're 11? Ah, what a pain that was. So Krishna, we say he has the form of a 16-year-old boy, but on the Boma Lila, it takes a sequence of years, and it looks like 11 years. In Goloka Vrindavan, it's the eternal present, which we cannot conceive of. We know that there's a past, the future is unknown, and the present, as soon as we think of the present, it's in the past, it's gone already. And the Goloka, from Vaikuntha up, there's no time. The time starts when the material creation is viewed upon by Mahavishnu, who gazes upon Rama Devi, and she starts time. Like she turns on the meter. And then we have past, present, and future going on. So when Krishna comes on his Boma Lila, it's in a sequence. In Goloka, it goes on constantly every day. Every day it's newer and newer. Radharani never cooks the same dish twice. Every day. And she cooks about 25 preps. And that's just for breakfast. And Radharani greets her and kisses her. Oh, thank you, and Lalita, for coming to cook this morning. Yeah. Then she gets done. Who's his name? Danura? Tanishta. Tanishta is the cowherd boy who passes a message to Radharani before she leaves after breakfast. And Krishna is going to meet you here and there at this or that kunj. He's a Priyanarma Saka. Those are going. And meanwhile, you can imagine how they're giggling inside because Mother Yasoda is thanking Radharani for coming to cook. You're so nice, neighbor. Here you have no idea. And she has no idea.
She doesn't know what's going on at night.
Yeah.
Oh,
They meet in the afternoon in Radhakund also. Oh boy. It's super special. So here, how Radhakund is created, it starts with Arista Sura, but that's a whole nother thing. See, so you can, I'm sure that the Smarta Brahmins have trained people by reading about Arista Sura in Bhagavatam or previous Puranas. They'll say, see, even Krishna has to follow Dharma. He had to dig a pond like a great king, to do a Sukriti, to cover his sin of killing Aristasura, who was a bull. Well, even Krishna has to follow Dharma, boys and girls. See? And that's a nice teaching. But the internal thing is, this is just the external structure of how Radhakund appears. In Goloka, Radhakunda is eternally there. But to make it appear, it's just like when you put on a play, you have to gather, or a movie, you got to have, $10 million and get the actors and get the cameras but that's not the play. When you see the play on the screen, that's what everything else you don't care about. That's why I really get really bored when I see all the credits that go up. Lighting director, microphones by Sony. Who cares? We want to see the drama that's going on in the movie. So we have to separate these things. Of some of the causes, like Govardhan is eternally in Goloka. How did Govardhan get here? On this and on every Bhuloka where Krishna Lila is in a different universe, every day of Brahma comes a rishi was mountains could fly, they had wings. So some rishi thought Govardhan flying around was so beautiful, he made him follow me to Banaras. But Govardhan saw Braja and the Jamuna, said, I want to go there, I want to stop for a little while. And he stopped forever. Still, also, Govardhan here is sinking. Now, Raghunath, and this came over on the fifth canto group that we were talking about. Govardhan is lower. When Raghunath Das Goswami felt that Mahaprabhu had disappeared, he wanted to go to Govardhan and commit suicide by jumping off Govardhan. Have you been to Govardhan? Is there any place high enough that you could jump off? Maybe break an arm. So it means at that time, Govardhan was so big. When Lord Chaitanya was at Manasarovar, he could see the peaks of Govardhan. You can't see them from there now. So it was much, much bigger. I think, what is this? I think
one mustard seed a year, I heard it's going
a
down.
year. So in 500 years, a couple of yards. They're very big mustard seeds sometimes. But it is definitely sinking, because you wouldn't ever think that you could jump off Govardhan today high enough that you could commit suicide.
Just before Lavanya left, she said from the 1944 BTG article by Srila Prabhupada, the Gaudiya Vaishnavas therefore worship Srila Gurudev, the spiritual master, in that light of being the servitor personality of Godhead, and in all old literatures of devotional service, or in the songs of Srila Narottam Das Thakur, Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur, or any other unalloyed Vaishnavas, the spiritual master is always considered either as one of the confidential associates of Srimati Radharani or the manifested representation of Srila Nityananda Prabhu.
Yeah, that 44 edition of Back to Godhead explains, was the fall from Vaikuntha people back to Godhead, back. We were there, we're going back. Well, that was an expression, a figure of speech that Prabhupada got. He says in the magazine, in writing, that came from the Archbishop of Canterbury during World War II, that we must
Go back
comfort ourselves during this war by going back to Godhead, going back to
God.
Godhood. Back to Godhood is Godhead.
So you're saying that's supporting the general Gaudiya concept that Maya Shakti cannot exist in the spiritual world, and it's a manner of expression that we're from Tatashta Shakti and Nitya Bada.
Yeah, and all that. But the idea back to Godhead. I was in B'nai B'rith summer camp 2 years, and this one folk singing and dancing troupe came from Israel. Israel had just started. This is not 1955 or so. And we were about 12, 13-year-old boys. And this troupe came to sing Hebrew songs and Hebrew dances from Israel. And then the leader gave us a speech about Zionism, and he was trying to recruit us.
Still done today.
And he was telling us that we should go back to our homeland. If you identify as a Jew, your homeland is Israel, not Wisconsin, not America. So the Jivatma, where do we come from? Everything comes from Krishna. So the real home of the conscious Jiva is in consciousness, not in the unconscious Maya Shakti. So we go home back to Godhead. Yeah, everything comes from Krishna. Sarva Karana Karanam. I love that idea. He's the cause of all causes. Plural, plural, plural. From Goloka, where he's only involved in his Leela in Goloka, then Balaram does all the causes. Down, 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 down to Mahavishnu, Garbhoda, Vishnu, Giroda, Vishnu, who spreads the jivas around, and another idea that came to me after last meeting. So you were in Goloka, and you decided to enjoy, and you turned your back on Krishna. So how long were you in Goloka? You must have been there for eternity, right? So now you hear that we've been Buddha Jiva for eternity. That's 2 eternities. There can't be 2 eternities. How could you be here for eternity and also in Goloka until you turned your back on Krishna? The devotees in Goloka never want to enjoy themselves apart from Krishna. Uttama Prabhu sent me, Uttama Sloka Prabhu, he sent me a commentary from Vedanta Sutra. In the last sutra, it says Krishna would never let anybody turn around. Just like if a devotee wants to bloop, we'd all try and help him to stay. So if Krishna wants you to stay, you go to stay. You can't resist Krishna's beauty and all these qualities of Radharani that we just read, compassion and loving those above her and below her. It's unthinkable. That's why it's never talked about, isn't it? None of the other Vaishnava Sampradayas, so I don't even think Shankara Mayavadis think that we fell out of Brahmajyoti, although you can fall from Brahmajyoti. But none of the other Vaishnava Sampradayas say so. And some Ishkan, not to mention names, Ishkan devotees, they go to South India and they tell this to Ramanuja people, and they are very upset. They said, this is some kind of Christian idea, because St. Michael said the devil leaves heaven and St. Michael drives out the devil and the 2/3 of the demon, his associates with him. Yeah. I think it's a misunderstanding of Christianity, because the devil's other name is Lucifer. That means light. So I think that they got the idea falling from the Jyoti can be covered. Mayavadis and Buddhists, they don't even think there's an individual jiva. They think that the individual jiva is only an individual when he's covered by Maya. When there's no Maya, then it's one big blob of consciousness, amorphous. There's no individual spark, but it's never described like that. It's always described as a spark, as rays of a sun, sparks from a fire. There's the big air and small air argument. Prabhupada gave this in the beginning when he was blasting us Mayavadis. The Mayavadis say there's air, all pervasive. And then if there's a jug, then the air will take the form of that jug. Break the jug, and the air is back to its all pervasiveness. And he said, but where does this nonsense jug come from? And where is it said? Where is it described that the Jivatma is like air? A spark is a tiny bit of thing. Madha Maharaj, next time I'll talk all about Madha Maharaj. Remind me of my time with him.
Sure. I want to thank especially local Guru Prabhu for bringing Acyutananda Prabhu, because you've completely transformed our readings. I mean, we were just going through the paragraphs, and Jiva Mukta always had great points to bring up, but you've brought these discussions to a whole other level. And I'm so grateful to you both for coming.
Well, I'm grateful for you to organize this.
Yes.
And And I'm grateful to Bhakta Danny. He's not even here. He's a nurse that has 25 other nurses under him. But when he saw what I was trying to do, I mean, because I'm just here alone in a little hick town in Ontario. There's no devotees. So out of my desperation, I started doing this. And then Danny said, this is so nice, Gora. I'm donating $200 to pay for a year of Zoom meetings. And Jivan Muktas, he's been hardcore, steady. And then Krishna Chandra Prabhu, he's been hardcore, coming all the time. Now Jagadananda Prabhu has come. Bhakta Thomas being hardcore. And now we have Devarshi coming for the first time. Where did you come from, Devarshi Prabhu? Where are you from?
Well, I'm a friend of Madan Mohan. I'm Russian, but I
Okay.
live in Chile. I live in Chile.
Spasibo.
Yeah, thank you very much.
I'm grateful to Loka Guru for bringing up the Radha Kripa Kataksha Stavaraja. That came up. I haven't thought about that in so long, and I'm gonna read that from now on a little bit every day. I don't know if I can do the whole thing every day. And this is Narayan Maharaj's songbook.
Uh-huh.
Much more complete than my little attempt. But that Kataksha is here on page 201 of the black version, the latest complete version.
Ramanath Sukha Prabhu has arrived from the United Kingdom, and he's mad about Lord Shiva. He's been doing all kinds of presentations on Shiva Tattva. Did you have before we end the night, Ramanath Sukha, did you have a specific question on Lord Shiva for Acyutananda Prabhu?
No. Please talk about Sri Radha Kripa Kataksha Shapa. This is so important. This is prayers of
I was
Parvati
still
in glorification of Radharani. That should be talked about.
Yes. And there are what's called Agama Shastras. The Agamas are traditional. They're not part of the Sruti. They're Agama Shastras, which are called Tantra. And so much of Radharani and Madhurya is discussed and taught from Shiva to Parvati. So they're both Radha Krishna devotees. But I was also very fond. We all have to be very fond of Shiva, and he is inconceivable. He's kind of a Tatastha. I'm making this up. It's not accurate, but he's like a Tatastha Vishnu. He's always on the border. Sometimes he can be slightly affected by the material world. He is called Bhavananda. Bhava meaning the creation. He can enjoy the material. He's the only one who can enjoy the material nature. Material nature is Durga. And that's her Shaktis. And so when I recall, because most of the Vaishnavas, I would say, even most, and if you go through Jaiva Dharma, many of the Vaishnavas were first in Bengal. Shaktaism and Shaivism is very, very strong there. Mayapur, it's named Mayapur because it's named after Mahamaya. It was the original name of Maya. That's why it's called Mayapur. Now we know it's Yoga Maya.
So it should be called Yoga Mayapur.
Yeah, be better.
But this is part of the distinction that needs to be made is Mahamaya from Yoga Maya, as well as regular Shiva from Sadashiva. As Gaudiya Vaishnavas, we worship Sadashiva, specifically as Advaita Acharya, and also as Gopishwar Mahadev is also considered Sadashiva. Lingaraj and Bhuvaneshwar is also considered Sadashiva. So we need to make this subtle distinction so that devotees can properly enter into a relationship with Shiva Mahadev in relationship to Radha and Krishna.
The gopis joke with Krishna. They say, you're a cowherd boy. So Shiva is Pashupati. He's in charge of Tamagun. So that's all the animals. Pashu means animal. So he's the lord of all animals. And so they joke, Krishna, you're a Pashupati. You're just animal. Cowboy taking care of the cows. You're a Pashupati. You're animal tender. They call him Pashupati. They can switch. For Krishna, everything is spiritual. And this comes in when Krishna enters Hastinapur, he picks up a conch shell and blows it. And the conch shell, when it touches Krishna's lips, turns pink, red. And Prabhupada's purport is that he can take a material thing, when he touches it, it is now electrified and becomes a spiritual living thing. In the Bhoma Lila, the material nature gets spiritualized. In the Goloka Lila, there is no matter to be spiritual. There's only one element there. Shuddha Sattva. Everything is made out of spirit. Here, we have spirit mixed in with matter. But some devotees and Krishna and all the avatars, they can turn this material and make it useless. Like an iron rod is put into the fire, now it behaves like fire. So Krishna can do that. Devotees can do that. When we offer prasadam, it becomes now spiritualized. And everybody knows it's rice and dal, but now it is spiritual.
Last session or the session before, you were speaking, I'm not sure if it was a Shalagram Shila or if it was Govardhan Shila, about it was in Mayapur and the Shila was wrapped with a string. Do you remember what it was you were telling?
Well, I got from this yogi a salagram, and I brought it to Prabhupada. I wrapped it in silk with tulsis for the journey, and then Prabhupada kept it and installed it with Jana Nivas the next day.
And that's still on the altar in Mayapur.
Yeah, I hope so.
Huh.
Things get stolen. When we first parikrama in India, there was a huge tulsi beads on Rupa Goswami's samadhi. And there were a few American, and then it was gone. So I'm pretty sure some American pinched it. I'm sure some Americans stole it. They were huge, huge tulsi beads.
I was very surprised when I went to Vrindavan last year and when I went to visit the Radha Damodar Mandir to see that it had all been covered over and enclosed. And it's
But there was a big monkey problem.
Oh, I see.
A very terrible.
It just didn't have that same mood, that outdoor mood, but I guess, yeah, I get it.
But those are all, what did we just read about the monkeys? That's their last birth.
Yeah.
So they get to do a lot of mischief. And
Yeah, really.
I heard the monkeys are a little less this year.
That was the donation of Jagat Guru at Narasingha Maharaj. He donated for all of that renovation.
Wow.
Yeah.
Guru Kripa also, even after Prabhupada, he sent money to Radha Damodar to renovate it. When I first went there, it was in pretty bad shape, and the deity clothing looked like they hadn't changed it in a year. So tattered and old and droopy. I was a little disappointed, but that was run by some Goswami. Someday I'll tell you his whole story. Prabhupada knew his brother, who was the Goswami. And the other brother was a gambler. He was broke. And he came to the brother, Narendra Banerjee, said, let me be the Goswami of Radha Damodar. And then he said, you know why you see so many deities in Radha Damodar on the altar?
Why?
They all had their separate temples.
Oh.
Yeah. And this Gorachand Goswami was in debt, and he started to sell those temples to people who did not want to worship the deities. So he brought them all over and lined them up in Radha Damodar. Shamananda's deity is there. Bakreshwar, is it Bakreshwar? Bhugarbha Goswami is there. And
yes.
Who else? There's a third one, a fourth one. Bhugarbha Goswami, Shamananda, and another one, and Radha Damodar. So he just took them out of those temples and sold properties all over. There was going to be a court case.
When I went to the Madan Mohan temple to take a photo of the deities, the pujari was ready to beat me. And I'm trying to understand, why are the pujaris, why do they almost get violent with you if you want to take a photo of the deities?
Yeah, Radha Damodar, some pujari got really mad at me, and they don't allow it. They think we're going to sell it. and they won't get paid.
Ah,
They
Yeah.
think they also externally, they think we're gonna make some offense with that. Someone will see it and make some offense.
oh,
That's one other consideration.
I see.
Not a
So
bad
they're-
idea. That's not
Yeah.
a bad idea. Yeah.
I was
Fall into
thinking-
the hands.
We want to spread the glories of those deities all around the world, and they're ready to beat us.
Yeah, but, one of our devotees went to Jagannath Puri and was making black cloth rubbings of Lord Chaitanya's feet, footprints,
Yeah.
and the Pujari came out. Now, he was Indian, so the Pandas were pretty nice, but they said, oh, you have to stop. He made about 30. He said, we have temples all over the world. But I think they stopped him, but he was able to make about 30 pressings of Lord Chaitanya's lotus feet.
Was that at the Gambira?
I don't know where it is.
Okay.
Do you? Maybe. Or it is in front of the Garuda Stamba. The Garuda Stamba where Lord Chaitanya stood, and his footprints melted into the stone.
I remember hearing a quote from Srila Prabhupada where he said that if they don't let us, his disciples, into the Jagannath temple, he said, then we shall build a temple beside their temple, and we'll have a big kirtan, and Lord Jagannath will leave their temple and he'll move into our temple.
Yeah.
Is it true that Prabhupada had so much solidarity for us that he refused to go to the Jagannath temple because they would not allow his disciples?
Maybe, yes.
Yeah.
But like I said, a lot of them think that Jagannath is Shiva, and because they're devotees of, there's a Shakti Peeth there, Bimala Devi. And being Kanishta, there's a physical part. I don't know which part. Well, one of the parts of Sati's body fell there. The other one was in Calcutta. That's a finger. Pinky finger is in Calcutta. And other places, there are 52 places, Shakti Peeths in India, where Sati's body fell. And so one part is in Bimala and Jagannath. And many of the Pandits are really Shakta. They're devotees of Devi.
There's a question from Devarshi Prabhu. He says, it's been said today that only Rupa Raghunath Goswamis were Nitya Siddhas and
Yeah.
others Sadhana Siddhas. In ISKCON Desire Tree, there is a document in which all 6 Goswamis appear as Manjaris in Krishna Leelas. What would be the explanation?
The Bhava descends on those who come up to. That's the teaching of Damodar Ashtakam and Damodar Leela. In the Ramanuja Sampradaya, they have 2 sects. One is the monkey sect and one is the cat sect. The baby monkey clings onto the mother, and the mother just goes about her business. The kitten, the mother cat picks her up, and the kitten doesn't have anything to do. We say both are only half. The 2 inches, 2 fingers difference of Mother Yasoda's cord to tie up Damodar Krishna, baby Krishna. One is the effort of the devotee, and the other is the mercy that comes down from Krishna. He takes mercy on Mother Yasoda and says, okay, now you can tie me. But she is effort and sweating. She gets all the cordage from Vrindavan. The other ladies were taking out their hair cords to give to her to tie together, and it wouldn't. So all that effort. So that's the 2. So the bhakti of the Goswamis and then the descending. And Sridhar Maharaj, many times he would always say that the bhakti must come from above, must come down. He would say that so often. The bhava comes down into the devotee from above. It is not the ascending process, it's the descending. Mercy comes down. So yes, so the Manjari Bhava comes down into them. But Rupan Raghunath are eternal. I got this from Narayan Maharaj's commentaries. And he must have gotten it from an authoritative, because he never speculates either.
I was told that Srila Narayan Maharaj had the key to Bhakti Pragya Keshava Maharaj's library.
Oh, I'll just say briefly, if you invite ISKCON people on this group here, we may not be able to talk so freely.
Ah, well, I try not to discriminate. But I understand your point.
And I will be restricted and others will be restricted about talking about anybody outside ISKCON because they say terrible things which are intolerable for us to hear and very, very detrimental for them. That's an
Yeah.
interesting point that to make photographs, they may get into the hands of people that photographs of deities, they may fall into the hands of people who will disrespect them. Yeah, that's a good idea.
Mm. Well, it's 20 to 11 here, and I want to make sure everyone can still wake up for whatever morning program they can do. And I hope everyone will come back on Friday, 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time for the same. Will you be able to join us again at Acyutananda Prabhu this Friday, Krishna willing?
If I'm alive here.
Okay, fantastic. Please accept my respectful obeisances, everyone.
Haribo. Panchakalpatarabhyasya kripasindhubheva cha patitanang pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha.
Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Shri Guru Garanga ki jai. Nitai Gaur Premanandi Hari Hari Bol.